I'm doing 75 deals a year and I'm around Eric Brewer that's doing 500 deals a year. I'm like, I want to fucking do 500 deals a year
Right.
without even really kind of reverse engineering that as to like, why do I want to do 500 deals a year?
Exactly.
It's just like, I'm going to do it because that's the next step.
Yeah.
That's progress.
I was involved in a shooting in the 39th district where I spent my first like 7 years, and that experience was not enjoyable whatsoever. There's a lot of things that people don't really talk about, but like when you're seeing like dead babies, like women who are getting raped and homicides like consistently, like day to day, on top of like shootings and stabbings, like it is a lot. Like it wears on your psyche for sure. I messed a lot of stuff up. I got ripped off by at least two contractors. But that's my best property today.
Welcome back to the Revamp Podcast. Super excited. Awesome guest today. If you're new here, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It helps me continue bringing on awesome guests. Like today, we got Tom O'Brien. And I was telling you right before we started that you're one of the first people that I've actually had answer like questions prior to coming into the podcast. And I really love this first thing that you said here, man, because the question was to kind of like explain yourself in a sentence or two. And what you said is, I'm just a dad trying to provide for his family and show my kids that they have other outside the box choices that they can make in life. And that's freaking beautiful, man. As soon as I read that, I'm like, wow, I'm going to love this conversation. I'm going to love it. I'm going to love it. So Tom, take us back to the start. I know some of your history and everything and how you got into the world of real estate, but take us back, man.
First of all, thanks for having me on, dude.
Of course.
This is an honor, honestly, and exciting. Like, I think I'm still kind of shifting away from being used to going to work, even after like 2 years or 2.5 years out now. But I just have a lot of gratitude for that. I'm like, I just can pull up and go do a podcast at 1 p.m. instead of have to be at some, shit detail like downtown.
It's a huge shift, isn't it? Right?
It is.
Man.
It is.
So what were you doing prior to the last 2.5 years?
So I was a Philadelphia police officer from 2007 up until about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So I became a cop. Like, I think I took the fire department test and the police department test around about the same time.
Okay.
I really wanted to be a firefighter, but there was some hiccup with my license getting changed, and I had to defer. So anyway, I was selling cars at the time, and I got a call on a Friday, and they're like, okay, you're going to start the police academy on Monday. I was like, cool, let's do it. And I literally walked out of my job. I'm like, see ya.
No way.
So I was excited. I think it was just a good fit for me at that time. Like, I really enjoyed the regimented lifestyle, the discipline, and maybe it's because my dad was in the military or something. Who knows? So there's always some deeper reason, I'm sure.
Of course.
But it was respectable position, and I was 26, so carrying a gun sounded really fun.
Hell yeah.
And all that stuff. So there's a lot of things that happened in that over the course of my 15-year career, for sure. I would say the first maybe 6 to 7 were like really enjoyable. I was very busy. I used to pick up a lot of overtime, and I was at court a lot. I was very active. But that stuff starts to take a toll on you after a while. So I was involved in a shooting in the 39th district where I spent my first like 7 years, and that experience was not enjoyable whatsoever.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Holy crap. So 7 years in, involved in a shooting.
Roughly about 7 years in, involved in a shooting. So I think I had already kind of reached my breaking point, like right around that time anyway. I think just with the constant change in schedules and like shortage on manpower, I don't think people realize like what cops actually go through, especially in Philly. It's brutal. And like you'd be alarmed if you found out, like, if people actually knew, like, how many cops were working on occasion.
Really?
It's disturbing.
You mean like there's a lot fewer than people think?
Yes. Yeah. Depending on the district, depending on the time of day, really depending on the time of year too. But anyway, so that experience was done and over with within moments. And like, I was definitely in shock, and then had to go get interviewed, and you're off the streets for a couple months. And then, you know, I'm not going to get into too many details, but the gentleman did live, and I'm actually very glad that he did, because that's the last thing that I wanted to have to walk around with. So, and then the aftermath, it's like 2 years of meeting with like city attorneys and going over the details of that. And it was a lot to deal with. And I think I put in a transfer. I went down to South Philly I was down there for about 2 years, and I studied for the sergeant test, and then went back out to West Philly. So I was out there for the remainder of my career. But, there's a lot of things that people don't really talk about, but like when you're seeing like dead babies, like women who are getting raped, and homicides like consistently, like day to day, on top of like shootings and stabbings, like it is a lot. Like it wears on your psyche for sure. So,
dude, just thinking through that as you're saying that, it's like you're just doing your job, and then a result of something that happened, you end up, it kind of turns your life upside down. And like you said, okay, this guy survived and everything, but it's like, it's crazy that your life can change in the drop of a dime. Wow.
Yeah, it was my oldest daughter's first birthday. And I remember, it's kind of a funny story, but they have a protocol. So when internal affairs shows up to investigate, there was a lieutenant, and he saw me on the phone, and he's like, "You cannot talk on the phone, because whoever you're talking to, I can subpoena." And I said, "Cool, then go ahead and subpoena Stock's Bakery, because I'm getting ready to pick up my cake today for my daughter."
Are you kidding me?
But like, you know, so it was, listen, I'm very appreciative of all the cops that work, and, you know, especially the ones that make it a span of an entire career. But at some point, it just became it was like corrosive to me.
Got it.
Like I had to get out. So I started looking for different avenues to get out. I think I heard of Bigger Pockets somehow. I'm sure that's probably how most people get into it, maybe or not. But when I started to learn and listen to those podcasts, I was so mad I hadn't been exposed to that somehow. Like earlier, I'm like, you mean people are doing this for like a living? Like, and it's a thing? Like, I wasn't even aware of it. So there was a podcast by Mike Webb. So if you guys don't know, if you're a first responder, First Responder Financial Freedom, it's a Facebook page. It is an excellent resource. So I heard his podcast and went to his Facebook page, and I got in right away with like mostly firefighters, no knock there. But, these guys were they were cool. They were down to earth, and they would help talk to you about things. So like, I didn't know anything about real estate. So I was fortunate enough to find a couple of really nice guys that I'm still friends with today that were able to help me understand kind of maybe the most intelligent way to get started. So
that's so cool that there's communities like that, right? Because it's like, that just made it that much more digestible and relatable to you. Because like you said, it's like, all right, you already found Bigger Pockets and everything. Like, that's a community. But when you find a niche community that you're like, I identify with these guys, and there's other guys that are like me that were in a similar field and they were able to transition, I feel that's what makes it real. You know, it's like, it makes it seem more possible in our mind.
Yeah, like they did it. There's no reason why I can't do it.
That's exactly right, man.
So I dove in with those guys. And at the same time, I think I was perusing on Facebook, more like real estate oriented groups. And there was a guy I'm still friends with today, real good dude, Kevin Christensen, down in Delaware. And like, maybe it's come from my background, but like I've always realized that mentorship has a much more profound effect than just chatting with random people. So I think I reached out to him. He made some kind of post, or somebody made a post about him buying like 12 properties in a year. And I'm like, well, he's in Delaware. It's not far. So I just messaged him like, yo, I'm like, do you happen to have any time to talk anytime in the near future? And he was like, yeah, call me now. And like, I called him. I think I was on the phone with him for like 3 hours, just talking about all kinds of stuff. And I said, dude, can I do anything for you? Like, so I used to follow him around like on my days off, and I would paint his houses. And the whole time we're chatting about real estate and BRRRRs and DSCR loans and all that stuff that I was just learning about. So that kind of led to my first like real deal. Like I already actually had a duplex, but I didn't know anything about real estate. I was like looking back, like I was just missing pieces, dude. I'm about as sharp as a bowling ball. So anyway, like, so there was a wholesale deal in Newcastle, and he pointed me from his realtor buddy, and I went to go check it out, and I was like, whoa, dude, this is like a 1920 build. It needs like so much work. It's like lath and plaster everywhere. And I'm like, this is going to be like an absolute mess. And I was like 50% in, I think. And I was talking with a wholesaler and just getting used to learning how to run numbers. I'm like, it seems like I'm going to leave a little bit of money in this deal. And then I was hesitant. And I was in New Orleans with my wife and her parents. And Kevin called me up. He was like, dude, if you don't buy the house, I'm going to buy it.
That's a way to hold your feet to the fire, or at least make you take action.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right, I'll do it. And I did it. So I will say that what made me a little bit more comfortable with that was some of my guidance from the first responder crowd. So, dude, I had like $2,000 in my checking account when I got started. Nothing. And I hear people talk about the money thing all the time. I got a HELOC out on my house, so I had money like there for that. So I used that as a down payment, hard money, did the rehab, took way longer than I thought it was gonna. I messed a lot of stuff up. I got ripped off by at least two contractors. But that's my best property today.
No way, really?
Yeah, my mortgage is like $1,900. My gross rent is $4,650.
Holy crap!
So it's a single family, a 4-car garage, and above the 4-car garage is a 2-bed apartment. So
okay,
and the rental demand is strong. I like Newcastle.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So many takeaways from that, right? So like just back to the point of you saying he only had like $2,000 in your bank account, but you talked to a guy that you knew was in the space. You reached out to him, and you didn't do what most people do and just say, hey, let me pick your brain and take. Yep. You said, how can I help? And you're going around with him and actually working on properties and learning. Like there's a value trade-off there, right? Like so many people are just like, what can you tell me? What can you give me?
Right.
So you didn't have money to give, but you had your time to give. And most people don't even look at that and say, well, I can help out. I can come paint, right?
Yeah.
I love that, man.
Yeah. So it was an extremely valuable experience, I think, in just like building those relationships, finding the right relationships, and just actually doing it. So, you can talk about it and study it all you want. Mm-hmm. But when you actually do it, that's when you learn all the lessons, right?
Absolutely, man.
So that took me forever to do that.
What year was this?
So this was about 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
2.5 years ago. So when I closed on that, I was starting to do a lot of the work myself initially, which is probably not very uncommon for guys, right? And I was like, oh, this is going to take me like 8 years to do this on my own, right?
Yeah, it's not going to happen, man. Yeah.
So I had a friend through Kevin who was doing creative finance. And as soon as I started to talk to him about that, I'm like, I need to learn this now. And I joined a mentorship for that. I'm not going to name it because I don't want anybody to join it because I think it's actually does more harm than good.
Oh,
but
okay.
Just my opinion.
Okay.
But it was still a good starting point for me. So I did everything that they pushed you to do. I joined, and around about the same time, I got hurt at work. So I got a TBI from an incident at work. Like
what's TBI?
Traumatic brain injury.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it was nasty, and like I was definitely like I don't know if this is kosher, but I was definitely like mentally retarded for like a good 6 to 8 months.
Really?
Like it was it was very challenging experience, but I had already started at the BRRRR, so I was just working with that the best I could.
Holy crap.
And
What happened, dude? What was the injury?
It was a disturbance that spilled outside. The guy ran at the girl. There was a bunch of stuff on the ground, and I got basically pile drive like head first into the side of a patrol car.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So it was really bad.
Wow.
So I had time. Now I had time. I was dealing with some physical stuff, but I still was already initiated or started this BRRRR. So I just made the best use of my time. It made me start hiring contractors out, which was helpful.
Yep.
And then getting into the creative stuff. So I got pushed right away into, okay, no, I'm looking forward to telling this because I love when people, like, they want to get started in real estate, but they don't understand how much you have to have a skill set, in my opinion. So 2 VAs, pulling lists, like batch leads, pulling the same list everybody else is pulling, by the way. So, I had so many leads coming in, right?
Right.
Prospects, people who said, yeah, it was like maybe between 2 VAs, maybe like 4 to 6 a day.
And they were just like cold calling for you, or were they texting?
The VAs were cold calling, and then qualifying their way. Again, no experience in real estate, just brand new, right?
Yeah.
It took me probably good 6 months of like absolutely losing my mind. Like your funnel starts filling up, right? And it was one conversation that did it for me. I don't even know why the hell I was marketing in Arizona. I have no idea.
Were you?
I was all over the place.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, dude, I was telling my wife, I must talk to this guy maybe for probably a total like 6 or 7 hours between like 5 or 6 phone calls.
Holy crap. A dude in Arizona.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So I don't even remember what the details were. But he was behind on his payments or something. And long story short, I'm telling my wife, dude, I have such good rapport with this guy. Like 100% is going to sell me his house. Right. And then like the last time I talked to him, I was like, hey, what's going on, brother? I've been talking to you in a couple of days. Like anything new? He's like, oh yeah, actually I forgot to tell you, I sold the house yesterday.
No way.
And that's when I was like, wow.
That's when you realized you were friend zoned.
I was like, dude, exactly. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I didn't know how to structure a deal. Like, I had no sales framework whatsoever. So I'm like, I need to do something different. And it's funny because in that particular mentorship, like you would see it like clockwork. Like people who throw all this money into that kind of a process without having any skill set on it or very minimal and burning out at the 6-month period. Like dropping like flies.
How much money roughly would you say you were spending per month between the marketing that you were doing and like the VAs?
It wasn't crazy. I think it was probably somewhere between about maybe $3 to $4 grand. It wasn't astronomical.
Gotcha.
But that's a lot of money.
Well, yeah, you compound that over 6 months
right, exactly.
with 0 results for somebody. That's not really a digestible pill anymore.
And plus, you start to feel like you're doing something wrong. You see other people getting deals, and you're doing the comparing game and all that. So,
yup.
So anyway, I got invited to a Zoom around that time, and I didn't know what it was. I just joined it. Shoot from the hip, right?
Talked a lot about that.
I got in there, and there was a guy I'm still friends with today who was trained in Sandler sales system framework.
Yep.
So it was me, him, and a handful of other people that literally it started maybe every other day, and it got to every day. It was every day.
Doing sales
I would say
training.
6 to 7 days a week for 2 to 3 hours every day.
Wow. Okay.
Role play Sandler for about 8 months.
Wow.
So I'm still doing my thing in the background while learning this stuff.
Yep.
And it just like upped the ante. I was still trying to learn how to structure a deal because I haven't done one, like outside of just a BRRRR at that point. But then I got an absolute home run of a deal in Havertown from the cold calling campaign, and that's what really did it. I was like, here we go.
Okay.
It was disgusting, the deal itself. It was owner finance. It was the only straight owner finance deal I've ever done. Most of them are sub 2.
Okay.
So there was the house was paid off. ARV. It's in Havertown. So it was like 340K at the time. It needed about 60 to 70 grand worth of work.
Okay.
And the seller gave it to me. It was his idea. I just kind of planted a seed for a possible owner finance type structure. 180K at 5% was zero down.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things you could do with that. Right?
Yeah. Well, you got a million options.
You could flip it. You could assign it.
Right.
You could BRRRR it. Right. You could do whatever you want. So I was obsessed at that time because I had met a few other people who were doing the owner finance thing. Already.
Okay.
So the way I saw it, like I was still in a race, like a mad dash to replace my police income.
Right.
Because that was really like the main thing.
Yeah.
Like I wanted out of there, and in order, like I have family, I have 3 kids and a wife. So it's like, I'm not leaving until I know I at least have X amount of dollars coming in every month. I was more focused on that, where a lot of other guys were doing the wholesale thing. I was like, I want the cash flow. So I stuck to that. So that's why I decided to do the owner finance structure. And I didn't think there was any way in the world that anybody was going to want to buy this house because it needed a full gut rehab. And I just followed the format that I was given, and it worked. So I got a 25 grand down payment.
Okay.
Okay, so I did close on it up front because the seller was more traditional, like you wanted a mortgage record it.
Okay.
So it was about 8K in closing costs on the front end.
Got it.
Deferred payment. So for 2 months. So I found a buyer in about 4 weeks who put down 25 grand.
Okay.
I didn't touch the house at all.
Nice.
So he put down 25, and the difference between my note with the seller and then my note to the buyer, I think I sold it. The guy still got a good deal. I sold it at 250, so he put 25 grand down. So 225K note at 9.95%.
Okay.
So 2,500 he pays. I pay seller 1,500 just for round numbers.
So you kept that
taxes and
mortgage in place?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
So everything's done in the trust. And so when I invite the tenant buyer in, he shares interest in the trust with that down payment.
Got it. Got it.
So $1,000 a month net cash flow, 15, 16, 17 grand net upfront, and there's your assignment fee, right? $1,000 net. I'm over a 30-year note with 47 grand, I think, with a point in there. I think I had it.
Nice.
Equity like locked into it. So I was like $1,000 a month off one deal net, like every month. So I'm not responsible for any maintenance and repairs or any taxes and insurance. So I was like, all right, it's go time.
Game changer,
on this
right?
thing right
Proof
here,
of concept.
Like, I'm like, yeah.
Yep.
Here we go. So I did get a couple more deals like through my cold calling campaign, but I cut that whole thing because I started, like, I would always take a lot of time, even though I wasn't an expert per se, like I still had done a few deals that way. So I would spend a lot of time helping other guys understand it. And I would get a lot of referrals just from networking and stuff like that. So
It's the best.
It's like basically like a deal a month for like the past 2 years, like,
Okay.
or so, like plus
Dude, that's sick.
a couple of assignments. So I'm at 22 properties right now,
Okay.
span between PA, Delaware, New Jersey, Virginia, South Carolina, and Georgia.
Okay. So
Right.
with all of those properties, or all of the properties you've done in the last couple of years, that's been the model, right? So buy it, have some sort of owner financing or sub to, and then sell it to a tenant buyer so you can collect upfront and then the residual cash flow from it.
That's primary for sure. Like I'll still use the trust, and if the seller has an underlying, I'll keep it in place as long as the terms are attractive enough. So, and not owner finance. Like I have some that are local that I just use as regular rentals. So I have a mixture, I would say. Like I have one short-term rental, couple long-term, rest are owner finance.
Got it. Got it. So break down, because it's even confusing and complicated for me sometimes. Like for somebody that doesn't understand that deal structure, can you break that down, how that really works all the way through?
Yeah, so the seller's mortgage stays in place. We take over payments. The structure or the transaction vehicle that's used is a trust. So we have the seller create the trust and invite me in to share 90% beneficial interest in the trust with management position.
Okay.
The seller still maintains 10% equitable interest in the trust.
Okay.
And there's two main reasons behind that. The first is per the Garn St. Germain Act, if the seller transfers their title inter vivos trust, there's a proviso in there that states that they are exempt from the due on sale clause being called. Nothing is 100%, but that is, from at least my knowledge, the most effective way to protect the transaction.
Okay.
And then at that point, you close on it. So some of these I'll self-perform. I'll just run title, make sure there's no liens or judgments, and then move forward. It's just a legal agreement. So that's not a full sale of real estate. So I don't...
What do you mean by that? It's not a full sale of real estate.
So because the seller is placing their deed into trust, that's not uncommon for estate purposes, right?
Okay. That makes sense.
The deed is not transferring to my LLC. So that because of that exemption, because the seller is still maintaining a small percent of interest in the trust, they haven't given up the deed completely on paper.
Got it.
Therefore, I don't really want to pay transfer tax.
Got it.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
So, there are pros and cons to this whole thing for sure. Like it's never like foolproof.
Of course.
And they can get complicated. And,
Sure.
But some deals go through a streamline, other ones have extra issues that you have to kind of figure out.
So essentially for every property though, like a trust is being created. And so you mentioned the seller is essentially creating the trust. Who's paying for that though? I assume you, right? The seller doesn't.
If I'm going to keep it like as a rental, then me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And if I'm owner financing it, then the tenant buyer will pay for that.
Okay. Got it.
Now,
how much does it cost to open a trust?
So it's about $2,000.
Okay. Does an attorney have to do it, or at this point for you, like you kind of already have templates and you know exactly what to do and how to do it?
So I use the same trustee, and that's where I learned all this from. So he has all the paperwork.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. So, you turn off your cold calling and everything.
Yeah.
And you're kind of just through the community. Is that what you're talking about? Like the Facebook community that you were talking about? You're just talking to a bunch of other guys in there?
I would say there and within the other mentorship I was in, and just meeting, like I'm like you, like I'm social, like I like to go out and chat, meet people or whatever. So I just like I'm a big believer. I think relationships are like the biggest thing in this business, honestly.
Absolutely.
Like 100%, right?
Yep.
So, and if you're bad seed, like it's a small community, so watch out, right? But yeah, so that's pretty much how I got it. So I would underwrite deals for guys like maybe you're a newer wholesaler that understands a little bit about creative and has a deal that you're looking at and you think maybe I can assign this, maybe I can do something with it. I just am missing like some pieces. Like I know I've underwritten deals for so many guys at this point that when they run into somebody else, they'll talk to Tom. I'll do a Zoom and I'll walk them through the whole structure and I'll make a suggestion on like what I would do with it. And a lot of times those deals, it's like, look, like based upon the numbers, like if you get it at X and it's structured this way, like you could probably assign it and make like, I don't know, $5 to $10,000 maybe, like on a good day, or you can wrap it.
Right.
And get potentially way more. Like homestead buyers are always going to pay more than an investor. They're not looking at the deal the same way.
Yep. It's different. Yep.
So that the market for unqualified buyers is massive.
Which somebody was telling me that recently, and that's contrary to what you would think, right? Like, but so you're saying this group, this demographic, like they're not qualifying for a mortgage, but they do have income. They kind of do have creditworthiness. So like, what does that profile of a person look like?
You'd be surprised. Like it varies. So, for instance, like my wife is a nurse practitioner. Now, when she moved from W-2, when she was working for a hospital, to like a per diem status, I mean, she makes very good money. But, if you go to qualify for a loan as a 1099 employee, they look at the last 2 years of your history, and they meld it together. So there was a point in time, I think we were trying to do a refinance on one, and She had only switched like 6 months prior, so they're like, we
Didn't
just
have
can't do
the
it.
history.
So like I have had buyers that are like 800 credit score and run their own business, or and then you run into some people that maybe went through a divorce and their credit got damaged, but they have good income.
Got it.
So it's a varying place. It's just you just have to obviously be very. You have to do your due diligence to make sure that the buyer is a good fit. Really.
So what does the marketing look like? So this first deal, right? The one in Havertown, you go to settlement on it and you kind of already have this business model in your mind.
Yeah.
So you close on it. How are you locating that tenant buyer?
Different rental platforms. Facebook Marketplace is by far the strongest, the place that most people will look. I mean,
and you're just like putting in the headline, like rent to own, or what are you doing?
So if you work backwards and from your avatar, right, and you have somebody who probably tried to get financing before, can't get it, they're not looking on Zillow, right?
True. That's true. Yeah.
Where are they looking?
Yeah.
So that's really the places that they end up looking.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha. All right. And then, so some people reach out to you. What I imagine the screening process is kind of similar to what most landlords probably do with a tenant anyway, right?
Yes.
Just kind of one step further.
One step further. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty similar. I mean, and then it's just about negotiating that point. Like I'll leverage certain aspects of the transaction to make it work, depending on the size of the down payment. Obviously I want to make sure that they can afford the monthly payment and then the interest rate. So, and the equity. So it's like everybody's going to have a fixation as a buyer on any one of those different items. They tend to be focused on whether it's the monthly or the purchase price or how much they had to put down. And then you take into consideration where the property is located, what kind of condition it's in and things like that. So you can kind of figure out the most appropriate way to market it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So like typically, like let's use again that Havertown one as an example. What did you say the price was that you ended up selling it to, the whatever we call them, the tenant occupant or rent to? What do you call that? Anyway.
I mean,
the buyer,
tenant buyer is probably the most accurate. Like I think really the most important thing is like the transaction itself and the way the deal is structured is for everybody's safety, and it also holds everybody's feet to the fire, right? So, I make sure that we have a very not just thorough conversation, but I'll do a recorded Zoom with the tenant buyer.
Okay.
And go over the same things if I have to, and we'll go over the entire trust acquisition agreement so that they understand exactly what's happening here, right? Because I don't want anybody coming back, and it has happened once, where they come back and say like, oh, I didn't understand what I was buying. Well, that's BS, right? You just can't pay now, so now you're making this story up.
Yeah.
So they need to understand that. That's part of my process with them. So
got it. So just walking through that entire thing, right? So you post on Facebook Marketplace, hey, I have this property, essentially rent to own. Somebody reaches out, you kind of screen them. They say, yes, I'm interested. I want this place for whatever, $300,000 or whatever. And you deem that they do have the income and credit worthiness and everything to be able to pay, like, what would that be? I'm just making up a number, $3,000 a month or something like that. Like that they would be.
Well, $3,000 would be high. Like most people are not going to be able to afford that. So I try to stick within like certain ARV range, and I'll use market rent as an indicator.
Okay.
To kind of help underwrite it from the start.
Got it.
You know what I mean? To kind of figure out the best way to structure it on the back end, but I don't think I answered your question though.
No, that's okay. I'm just thinking through the entire thing, like structurally, right? So they want the place, and all right. So let's just say that it's $2,000 a month, whatever it is.
They put down their down payment.
Okay, which is typically what? How much?
I'd say on average, like I do try to find deals that are at obviously the lowest entry fee possible, so that knowing it's a lot easier to find a buyer with like 15. Or $20,000 down than 40 or 50. So
absolutely.
I made the mistake of doing higher ARV properties in the 400s, and it makes it a little bit more challenging.
probably because you have more money out of pocket
On
going
that
into
deal we
acquisition,
did.
right?
On that deal we did, which is why I love Georgia. So
Georgia, okay, all right.
other landlord friendly states, because so we have one in Georgia that turned over. We have our third tenant buyer under. Actually, this is closing today.
Oh, okay.
In a year.
Congrats.
So listen. They're given every opportunity to walk away with this asset, as long as they follow the terms. And like, that's the thing. It's like, you have to make sure you pay your monthly on time and in full. That's it.
Right.
Like a lot of times I'll get people like, honestly, like rocking interest rates, like way below, the market,
Like
what the
prime
market's
or
dictating
whatever.
right now.
Okay.
Like if they're able to put more down, I'll give them that option. Like, you want to put more down, like that's awesome. I'll take that.
Right.
Right. And then I'll give you a decent interest rate in return. And they really are given that opportunity, but they have to follow the terms. So if they don't, then they're evicted.
So that was going to be my next question is like, okay, so they put down their $15,000 or whatever. Are they actually going to a physical settlement? Like, are they taking title?
They're not taking title. The title is going to be held in trust until all the underlying terms are satisfied.
Got it.
So what we're doing is we're creating a personal property note within the trust. So
Okay.
that is not a recorded mortgage. That's a note within the trust on personal property, not real property. Okay. So
okay.
there's also that other issue. If you're doing this and you're using an RMLO and you're transferring the deed into the buyer's name, like you got to follow Dodd-Frank. So
Elaborate.
it's a lending rule essentially. So I don't remember what the restrictions are, but if you're doing it that way, number one, you're going to have to pay unrealized gains on that sale.
Okay.
Because you're transferring the deed. So let's say like I had a $200,000 note, I sell it for $300 and take like a $20,000 down payment. So I have like $80,000 in equity. I'm using an RLMO, residential mortgage loan originator. Okay. To underwrite that deal, I'm creating an actual mortgage note and then passing the deed or the title off. Like I still have $80,000 that's going to be considered unrealized gains that's due taxable immediately.
Got it.
That year.
That makes sense.
So you might not want to do a lot of those.
Don't want to do
you're
that.
not even getting the money yet, right?
Exactly.
And like
that's an issue.
That's a problem.
Yeah, big problem.
So that's where the personal property note comes into play at. But
Okay. Got it.
yeah. I still don't think I answered.
No. I think that's full circle. That's the full picture there, right? So they have
the full closing. So the closing, because it's a legal document, notary. So on the front end, it's deed prep, deed recording, notary.
Got it.
And then because the deed isn't transferring after that point until like the buyer either refinances or sells or pays off the terms, then you're just doing notary and DocuSign on the back end.
Okay.
Everything is processed through the trust, through a servicing company. So the servicing company will set the tenant buyer up with payments, keep all accounting records, all
Love
that
it.
stuff. And the servicing company will disperse payments. They'll pay the underlying mortgage. And if I have a note, they'll pay me.
Okay.
And then that's how that's structured. So
Okay. I love it. What happens when they don't pay?
So, I mean, you're a landlord. The trust is a landlord. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So, post notice. And at that point, you're, depending on what state you're in, you're subject to whatever the notice to cure period is. So we have a 10-day grace period. So if you're, as long as you get your payment in by the 10th, if it's not in there by the 10th, come the 11th, you're getting a notice to quit posted on your door.
Okay.
If you don't cure within that cure period, you have an automatic default within the trust at 30 days.
Okay.
So if you do not come with your funds by that period of time, your interest in the trust is null and void.
And then if that happens, that 30-day period passes, then do you have to follow just like typical like eviction type of process?
Yeah, you're not even waiting for that 30 days. So just like if you had a regular rental in Delco, like if your payment is due on the 1st and you give them until the 5th,
Yep.
on the 6th you post notice,
Yep.
like depending on your experience in real estate. I think at this point, like I'm not.
Yeah, I've had that happen a couple times.
I'm not playing around. Like I try to be like a human being, and like I have tried to work out with things people before. Some are successful, some are not.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, like I really am just like point blank with folks at this point. I just tell them like this is the way it's structured. Like you have to have your payment in by this date. If it's not in, you're getting a notice to quit, posted on the door. Plain as that. No emotion involved.
Yep.
Because I've gotten taken advantage of a handful of times already.
No, does that happen? Does that happen? People do that?
It's a real thing. So, you know, it's just one of those things, I guess. You hear people talking real estate that've been in for a long time, they'll tell you that.
Oh yeah.
Right. But
yeah.
the newer folks are still adjusting like, I gotta be a human being about it. Well, I mean, at some point you're gonna get screwed.
Everybody tries to be nice from the start because it's the human logical thing to do until you get burned. And then it's like, well, I'm not gonna keep making the same mistake again and again and again. Yeah. Like, you know.
I just remove the emotion, it's getting posted, it's going right to the attorney.
Okay.
Right. So I'm not playing around, and then hopefully that's enough for them to say, okay, here's the payment. Cool, we're good. No problems. You know what I'm saying? But this is it's going to be like clockwork.
So let's say it does get to that point, though. It does go to the attorney and everything, and they basically say, fuck you, Tom. I'm not paying and I'm not leaving. What happens? Obviously, it's going to depend based on state, but let's say Pennsylvania.
So PA, I had one in Glen Olden.
Okay.
And it was tough finding an attorney. So that was part of the learning process too, right? It's like I have to break this whole thing down so that I'm not missing anything and they're not missing anything. I found the attorney. And so, you know, really the best way to look at it is this. The trust is set up, okay, based upon the tenant buyer following the terms of the occupancy agreement. So when they break that occupancy agreement, it makes their interest in the trust null and void. So it's just about the occupancy agreement at that point. So I went through a successful eviction in Glen Olden as a result.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. It took way longer than probably needed because I had to.
You had to learn the ropes.
I had to find the right attorney
right?
and then go through those steps, and I was very cautious about it. So, but that was the way to go. So now,
what was that time frame?
It was 8 months.
8 months.
Yeah.
So 8 months of no collection.
No payment.
So
in fact, I was told by the sweet old lady who I originally first met that you can go eat a beep. You know, you're gonna have to drag me out of here, basically. So
that's terrible, man.
And it really did get to that too. It was like they even stayed past their date, and we had to, you know, contact the court, and the sheriffs were about to come out, but then they left. So.
That's wild, man.
Right.
That's wild. You know, just you saying that reminded me, we had a deal that it was over in Jersey, and long story short, we assigned this deal. We're getting ready to close and everything, and I had to meet her at the property for something. I forget what it was. And she decided that day that she no longer wanted to sell the house to me. She wanted to sell it to somebody else for more money. And I'm just trying to have like a conversation with her and explain, you know, we have a legal agreement. We have a settlement date. Like everything's done already at this point, you know? And same thing, man. It's like up until this point, she was a nice, sweet old lady.
Turn on you.
Oh my God, dude. So when you said that, that's what I remember. She literally said to me, she's like, I don't fucking care what you do. Yeah. I will go to court and I will lie. I will do what, like she literally said, I will go to court and I will lie until the day that I die. You will never get this. And I'm like, what just happened, man?
Yeah. Yeah. How about
Holy crap. Whew. Yeah. It's not always easy to tell how somebody really is upon like first interactions, right?
Nope.
So, wow.
Yeah.
All right. So thinking about that deal specifically, Glen Olden, 8 months, no payments. When you acquired that one, did you acquire it sub 2?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did that work? You're just paying that mortgage every month?
Essentially, yeah. So that seller was originally very far behind on his mortgage and had gotten a loan modification done.
Okay.
So very popular, even more popular during COVID times.
Yeah.
So I would say probably close to 90% of the time, the lender is going to take those arrears, do the loan mod. Most of the time, they're going to keep the same interest rate, not all the time. So you have to watch that. And as a disclaimer, like you do not ever want to be involved in guiding, helping, or suggesting to a seller to take over the loan, to do a loan mod and then go do a deal with them, because you'll end up in federal prison. That's mortgage fraud. So in this case, the seller had already gotten a loan mod done. Okay, so there was significant amount of arrears that were slapped onto the back end of the loan at 0%.
Okay.
So I think in this case it was like 73 grand
In arrears.
in arrears.
Wow.
You know, once you add all the fees and attorney costs and all that stuff in there. So 73,000 at 0%, and I think there's about a $100K note at like 2.75%.
Okay.
I want to say. So those are the terms. So it's not uncommon. Like sometimes when people they get the loan mods done, it doesn't always necessarily mean they're in a better financial position, even if that's caught up. So they start to fall behind again, and then it's like do or die, right? It's like, you know.
But that's where it makes sense for them to have somebody like you come in and take over so they don't
I was
have to
going to
deal
say
with
it really does, because like depending on the condition of the home and like what's left owed on it, like they may be underwater or like it doesn't work as a cash wholesale deal, right?
Yep.
So they really don't have any other option.
Right.
Unless they're going to turn around and rent it out and move out. Like, and even then it's, you know, depending on the condition, it's just not doable. So
Yep.
because it really is like a last resort. So
Yep.
yeah.
All right, so thinking through that, so different angle, right? So we kind of went over a lot of the tenant buyer avatar, and you're kind of alluding to now like the avatar of the person that wants to sell their property to you, subject to. Are you like typically looking for just people that are on like a notice of default list or like a pre-foreclosure list?
I originally, like with all the list pulling that I was doing when I first started, I don't even remember what list I was pulling, bro. Who knows?
Pulling everything,
right?
yeah,
But,
yeah.
and even then, you still never really know what you're going to run into, right?
Right.
Like, you really don't. So, I mean, I could literally, if somebody was motivated enough, and they were, because I had a little mentorship for other first responders that I was running for a little while, and there was a couple guys that were motivated enough. I'm like, dude, I can take a 30-minute video of me calling on-market leads right now, and I'll just show you the criteria to look for, and there's a guaranteed deal there.
Yeah.
Yep. It's like shooting fish in a barrel, like when you know exactly what to look for.
Really?
Yep. That's not my favorite. Listen, when you're first getting started, if you want to learn how to do these, I highly recommend learning how to do it that way.
Okay.
Because they're a lot easier. But you're also getting deals that have very low equity too. So that's part of the caveat. And I wouldn't want to make a habit out of constantly taking deals that had low to no equity.
Yeah.
Because then you kind of remove, you know, your fail safe. You got to make sure they work. But the underwriting strategies, like I'll underwrite it, like obviously like taking over existing terms, making sure there's enough room to hold it as a rental if need be, so that the comps have to work. Like, you know, if I'm putting aside money for like CapEx repairs and vacancy and all that.
Right.
And if it works for that, it's going to work even better as a wrap. Pretty much.
One of like my hesitations for any sort of creative deals, because I've had a couple different like acquisitions guys on my team in the past that, you know, they went deep down the rabbit hole of creative deal structure and everything. And, you know, like I have my sales guys that are trying to sell me. They're like, all right, Drew, this deal doesn't really work as like a cash deal because that's our bread and butter, but it might work as this. And my hesitation was always... because I was the exact opposite, right? I was focused on wholesale cash deals, flips, whatever. But, you know, like quick, easy deal that we can purchase for X amount of dollars and go to settlement. My reasoning for that was I felt that there was so much more mental capacity that had to go into a creative deal. What do you think about that?
You know, it's funny because I have this conversation a lot. Like, and I think mentioned it to you when I first got to your office here. Like, this is the only rabbit hole I've really lived in for like the last 2 years. So it's like second nature, but it does require a lot. There's a lot of steps for sure. But if you know what you're doing, you know the best structure to use, like you can you can really do well. I mean, you know, it's like the red car theory, I guess. Like, I understand.
For
sure. And it makes sense, right? So it's like if you're just doing cash and flips, like there's more than enough business out there to do it, but you're probably missing deals. But just because you're just not used to doing that. So, you know, I've sat down with some bigger, like at least one bigger company. I was at Eric Brewer's office a couple times and like talking to his acquisition guys and him about this, and they're implementing it from what I can tell.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just an extra income source, I guess, but it is, I guess it's a lot. Like when I talk to people about it, even like seasoned investors who are not familiar with it, they're like having like a brain bleed over it. Yeah. But at the same time, like, you know, I've kind of shut myself off from the conventional investing world a bit. Like I haven't done any cash deals in the past 2 years.
Okay.
So even jumping back into that, like getting back into marketing again, is going to be probably a little bit of a learning curve for me, you know, but.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what does that look like for you going back into marketing? It seems that you kind of already have something good going for you, right? Like you said, roughly a deal a month, like with essentially no ad spend.
No ad spend. So there are pros to that. And like, I think when I look back and I have a lot of the same relationships I did when I first got started with some people I'm very close with. And I'm not knocking it because like, look, let's face it, there are a lot of factors involved, even if you're going to be successful at just wholesaling, right? Mm-hmm. Or flipping. Like there's a lot of factors, right? But from what I can tell, like I went a bit of a different path with going down this rabbit hole, whereas most people got stuck in the wholesale thing, which is fine. But I did it a little backwards, right? So now I make about 2.5 more times than I did as a cop right now in cash flow, right?
Beautiful.
So at least I have that, right?
Congratulations on that.
You know what I mean? Like that's me. Like, so I do struggle with this a lot of times because like just joining CG and even meeting a lot of guys around here, you know, it's like, do I want to turn it up or not? Like, I guess I kind of look at it like, why not? It's like a challenge to me and I enjoy it. So I think I probably will do it, but I'm going to do it at a pace that works for me, right? Like my family and my kids and the time that I get to spend with them. Like I get to pick my kids up from school and drop them off whenever I want. Like I never miss an event with them. Like anything that's going on, I can easily rearrange my schedule because I have no boss, you know? Yep. So like
you do have a boss. You do.
My wife.
And he's a crazy one. No, it's you. It's you, man. It's funny, like a lot of entrepreneurs say that, and it's like, no, you still do have one, man. And it's like, he's probably the craziest guy that you could work for, you know?
He is. No, for sure. 100%. That's why I have to talk to other people all the time to realize how crazy I am.
Absolutely, man. But seriously, just to take a second to pause there, right? Yeah. And maybe from an outside perspective, hear this just reflected back to you. 2.5 years and you more than doubled what you were making in a career that you weren't happy with anyway. And you have freedom to be able to take your kids places and everything. That's freaking incredible, man.
Isn't it? It is.
That's incredible.
It is. I'm content right now. Like, you know, it makes me a little nervous because like just seeing, you know, and knowing other guys, like everybody has different barometers, I guess, and how they want to spend their time, what their lifestyle is. So it is something that I don't think I take it lightly. Like I really do enjoy my time, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, I'm a pretty driven dude. Like
need new mountains to climb.
Right.
Yep.
Like, why not like take a shot at it? It's just that like, I think what I'm recognizing is like, I'm not everybody else. Like even being like at the CG event, like, I mean, yeah, there are guys that are balling in there. I mean, they're running legitimate, like major operations, like good for them. I'm very happy for them. Like I have no interest in running an empire. I will flat out admit that. But if I can figure something out that works, that fits within my lifestyle, you know, obviously with a little bit of a learning curve, maybe have a small team to do X amount. Like I do want to have more active income, right? So like to have more reserves put aside, things like that, just to feel a little bit more secure. So but at my pace, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like there's no reason to rush at this point.
Yeah,
and
man.
that part feels good. It's like, I can kind of take my time right now and just like cherry pick, learn, implement without feeling like overwhelmed. Whereas like the first year, I mean, I replaced my income in a year.
That's
I mean, granted, it wasn't that much. Like it's but
still,
like,
go into something new and be able to basically have success that quick, that early on. Like, dude, what other business could you go into? And in year one, like most people say, most businesses lose money for a couple years before they get any traction at all if they don't die.
Yeah, that's why real estate is so attractive, I think. Yeah.
Yep. And so everything that you just said there, it's like, dude, you already have kind of like the wisdom. So collective genius as a perfect example, because, and I say this often because I kind of fell into what I consider a trap also. I was able to realize it though and kind of course correct, but I've seen other guys that did not. And some of it was with Collective Genius. Some were other groups with buddies of mine that also wholesale flip houses, whatever.
Right.
But it's the idea of getting into a group, getting around other people that are ahead of you, right? They're the higher level, right? It's like they're the next step above where you're at today. And to some degree, all entrepreneurs, like we're competitive, right? So it's like, I see what he's doing. So I want to do it too, because I can do it, you know? And I've seen so many people, and again, I was one of them. It's like, I see, you know, I'm doing 75 deals a year and I'm around Eric Brewer that's doing 500 deals a year. I'm like, I want to fucking do 500 deals a year without even really kind of reverse engineering that as to like, why do I want to do 500 deals a year?
Exactly.
It's just like, I'm going to do it because that's the next step.
Yeah.
That's progress, right? And you go into that, and I don't care what industry we're talking about, dude, but like specifically in real estate, scaling and growing costs a lot of money.
Yep.
And there's a massive learning curve, right?
Yep.
Because it's not even just money, right? It's like, who do I have to transform myself into as a business owner, as a leader, as, you know, a mentor to my team, to my people? I got to figure out how to grow a fucking team.
It's a lot.
You know, there's a lot to it, man. And if you're sure that that's what you want and you're doing it for the right reasons, that's a fantastic thing.
Right.
But I've seen a lot of people that were killing it as a solopreneur, making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they have like a real lifestyle business. Like we're talking dudes that work like less than 20 hours a week, and they get around those people that they believe are the next level, and they're like, I want to chase what he's doing. They go do it, and they're miserable. They're making less money.
Yep.
Well, they're making more money, right? Their revenue is significantly higher,
right?
But their profitability freaking plummets.
See?
You
Exactly.
know? And it's like they end up like unhappy and unsatisfied because they were chasing something that they thought they needed to be because it was progress, when really it wasn't. Because exactly what you just said, it's like, well, that's not for me.
Right.
Dude, I love that. I get a little fired up about it.
I'll be honest with you, like even just joining that, and after last week of being down there, I was like, that was more than enough for me to be worth the entry fee. Because I'm like, it made me realize like what I don't want at the very least, right?
That's fantastic.
So that's a good start.
Absolutely, man.
Like, do I want a company with like $200,000 to $300,000 in overhead every month? Like, nope, I do not.
And some people do, and that's cool.
And that's
too,
cool.
You know?
And guess what? I have a lot of admiration because I can only imagine. I feel like it took a lot of work just to get here, let alone that's a whole different ball game, dude.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm good on that.
So that was one of the questions that you answered prior to coming in. Also, is basically how much is enough?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was hinting at.
Yeah.
Like I feel content. Like, I mean, when I was working as a cop, like I was at the last couple of years, dude, I was not present. I was checked out mentally. And like, especially like the last couple months or so, like we had the riots in Philly, and like our days off were canceled for like weeks in a row. And I remember my lieutenant at the time was like, well, I'll see you here tomorrow. And I was like, I'm on scheduled vacation tomorrow. He's like, well, we need you here. And I was like, I'm on scheduled vacation tomorrow.
Yeah, man, I don't know what to tell you.
You were out of your mind. I'm like, and I'm telling my guys they don't have to come in either. He's like, you can't do that. I'm like, watch me do it right now. I'm like, you tell them what you got to tell them. I'm telling them right now. I'm the direct supervisor. They don't have to come in.
Wow,
like
that's
it was
crazy.
enough. It was like, yo, you're killing people over here.
Man.
Like for real. Like I had so from going from that to here, I'm cool.
Yeah,
I'm pretty happy, dude.
Has there been like other guys that you worked with, that you were friends with, that kind of saw what you did and have kind of tried to come under your wing and be like, hey, show me the way?
I've had people reach out, but none of them are willing to do the work.
Really?
And that's frustrating. Like that's one of the reasons why I started like this side, like it was the first responder investor network. And there were a couple guys that I still talk to for sure. Maybe some of them were already doing a little bit of their thing, but anybody newer that joined, like, yo, it's like, I don't know what it is. Like, I just can't explain it. I don't understand it, but it's like, hey, here's a way out. But maybe it's just not for them, and that's fine. You know, that's okay. It's like, but I think you do have to have like a certain kind of mindset for sure to be like
100%, 100%. Yeah, we have to be slightly crazy to
a little
do.
bit.
Yeah,
I think.
it's just I feel, I don't know, really strongly about it when somebody hates what they do. And I'm not saying, like, dude, when I first started in real estate, I used to be the cheerleader, right? I told everybody they should be a freaking real estate investor. Everybody should own at least a couple rental properties. And, you know, through doing that and social media and talking to a bunch of people, like, I kind of encouraged some people to buy real estate that probably didn't have an entrepreneurial bone in their body. And in hindsight, I was like, yeah, maybe no, this isn't for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
And, you know, like maybe I shouldn't be as much of a evangelist to being a business owner, because it's definitely not for everybody. However, you know, I think the message is still there. Like, if you fucking hate what you do, you got options, dude. I'm not saying come over here to the world of business and real estate, but you can get out of what you're doing, man. There's options.
Yeah. Like anybody that has come to me recently, I give them homework to do, and it's not meant to be a dick. Actually, it's just actually for their benefit.
Absolutely.
So
if you won't do this, I
have a Sandler book. I'll say, okay, let's start here. I want you to read this and come back to me with questions, and then never hear back from them. So that's fine. You know what I mean? But like, if you're not willing to put the time in, it's like, I hate to say it, but it's like Mr. Meow. Like, I'm trying to help you.
Absolutely.
Like, if you want to get into this business and do these things, like, you're going to have to learn some things that are outside the box than what you're used to. But if you're not willing to do that, then you're probably not willing to do anything else too. And it's
absolutely,
again, not meant to be mean. It's just like, if you can do it, cool. Surprise me.
Absolutely, man. I love that. Like, recently, I've put together my thoughts on this after having so many, I hate to even say it, but like stupid questions asked of me. And now it's like, I get offended when somebody asks me a question that they could just go Google. It's like, I will answer any questions that you have, but if you can go to Google, why are you even asking me?
Right.
You know, it's there's so much information that's out there. And to your point, if somebody isn't going to do an ounce of work, but they're like, hey, Tom, can I take you out for coffee and pick your brain for 2 hours about the first 2 steps in this that I could just Google about anyway? It's like, probably not.
And then at that point, like, so I'm a big energy guy, right? Like, I only have so much energy through the day, and I have a lot of tasks I want to do, and also have the energy for my family. So I'm not just going to give it away anymore, you know? And like, I will to, I guess, the right people who are showing like enough like motivation or drive, I guess, depending on the circumstances, but I will. Yeah. Cause I've had people do that to me.
Yep.
You know, like
I've had so many people help
There's
me.
Nothing worse than like somebody who's just going to take all your energy and not do anything with it, and then come back and try to take more. Like, you got to be kidding me, man.
Yep. Exactly right, man. So back to the Sandler stuff real quick. So did you kind of like stick with that as time progressed, or you got to a point that you were like, oh, I feel that I'm well-versed enough in this?
So I feel like with, I think a lot of that stuff is ingrained in me at this point. I'm not a huge fan of all the stuff in Sandler, because it is like, it can be like psychologically manipulative. So I've kind of chosen certain parts that I probably still use, but I would say I'm probably pretty rusty at this point, because I haven't really been direct to seller in like over a year at least. So it's been mostly like warm to hot leads coming in. So I got kind of a heart attack the other day when they were doing sales training, and I was like, oh man, I'm rusty. Dude, like, if I am going to do this, and that's another thing to think about too, right? Like if I am going to try to do this and go back to direct seller, then I'm going to have to brush up on those things. But it comes with the territory, right?
Yep. Absolutely. And then at that point, it's like if you're trying to kind of build it out and everything, it's not just you brushing up on it. It's going to be training people on how to do that sales process and everything as well. Or
exactly,
you know?
Yeah. So I really do have a lot of stuff. I'm not gonna lie, it gives me anxiety to think about like taking all those steps. So it's like, maybe that'll change, maybe it won't. Like, and I have a rule. Like if it's not light and fun, I'm not gonna do it.
I love that.
That's my rule. Like at this point in time,
Yep.
I'm good with that. Like I'm not taking on any unnecessary stress.
I love that. I love that. So, wow. I'm still just stuck on that, man. Like 2.5 years and more than what'd you say, 2.5 times what you were making previously. Like that's incredible. What does your wife think about the last couple years worth of journey?
Okay, this is funny. So my wife's a nurse practitioner, right? So nurse and cops, I guess, go well together.
Is that a thing? I don't know.
It's a thing. Like, you know, they're blunt, like they're to the point, like, you know, it's kind of the same mentality or attitude, maybe, like being in that job X amount of years. But I'm pretty sure, I'm convinced, like the first year I was doing this, she thought I was just like hanging out in my office, which is like a bedroom I converted, and probably God knows what I was doing in there. She didn't believe it until I had a property in Delaware that I wrapped, and the buyer put down $114,000 down payment.
Wow. So
like I think net was about like 86 or 87 grand from that. So I got to check. I just sent her a screenshot of the wire, and she was like, "Hot damn!" But like I could show her. Like actually, the only reason I built a whole spreadsheet showing like each property, like what the underlying terms are, like you know whether it's a rental or like whether it's owner finance, like am I taking off CapEx or not, like all the terms to the point of where it's like now I have like my net cash flow per each property tallied up down the bottom as a total. That does not impress her.
No.
For some reason, I think only recently, I would say maybe over like the past like 6 months or so, has she finally started to see that like, all right, what you're doing is working. Like we definitely have X amount of money coming in every month, and she's excited about it. So it has happened already at that point. So took a little while though.
Yeah, well, I get it, man.
She probably thought I was nuts. You know, it's like you had this conversation. Like, actually, I mean, I included her in with everything. So even before I joined CG, I told her, I said, look, I feel like this is a good next step for me. I don't know what is going to come out of it, to be honest with you. I just feel like I'm kind of spinning my wheels right now. So I need some stuff to figure out, and this is part of the solution. It's going to cost X amount because it's not cheap.
Yep.
It's going to probably require this and all that. And she said, you know what? Like you've proven that you're good at what you're doing right now. So I don't see any reason not to do it.
Yep.
And I support you 100%. So
that's so great, man.
Isn't it?
It's one of the most important things, man. Like I tell people all the time, there's no shame in me saying it. It's like probably at least half of my success is because my wife is fucking awesome. She's awesome. Yeah. She's such a great support system. She's such a great cheerleader. Yeah, man. She's fantastic. And, you know, even recently, like I think one day in the last week, like I just texted her in the morning, and it's very rare for me to feel unmotivated. I'm like, you know, always just freaking balls to the wall. Let's go. And this one morning, man, I was just feeling unmotivated, and I said something to her, and she's like, I forget what she said, man. I'm going to have to find it now. But she was like...
Was it stop being a bitch?
It might have been stop being a little bitch. It should have been. That was basically what she was saying, but she said it in such an inspirational way that I'm like, man, maybe she really has spent a lot of time with me, you know?
Yeah, because like you can get like all the support in the world or like acknowledgement from other people who, you know, whatever, it's like, man, what you're doing is amazing. That's great. But like, if you're not getting it at home, like that's a problem. Like, that's a, man, you know, it's a major reason. So I did see that "Stop Being a Bitch" shirt the other day. It's funny because I was crying about some stupid last night, and I was like, I gotta stop being a bitch.
Stop being a bitch. Stop being a bitch. It's so funny because my buddy that owns that demo and clean out company, like him and I have talked about that in the past, and we both came to the conclusion that we internally tell ourselves probably multiple times a day, don't be a bitch.
Yeah, I think you kind of. I mean, it's a lot. Like, I don't know if everybody's brain works the way mine does, but I can definitely I can be my own worst enemy for sure.
Of course.
It's like, dude, there's way too much going on right now. You have no idea what you're doing. Like, it's just you get stuck in that kind of a mindset, and like I don't get anything done that way. It becomes counterproductive, and I'll freeze. So sometimes the best thing I can do is just stop for a little while, go take a walk, or talk to somebody. Kind of call it a day, and then you get back, and then you're like, what the hell was I thinking?
Yeah, man. Well, everything just needs to be kind of broken down into bite-sized pieces that's digestible, right? It's like, just like you said, looking forward and thinking about, oh my God, a team and processes and systems and all this stuff. It seems like a lot. Because it is. But when you take one little piece and say, okay, I'm going to outsource this one little piece. Right. And to do that, all right, maybe, I had to record 3 or 4 videos and just take a shot, and I'm going to hire some people. And maybe it's not going to work out, but one little piece at a time, Yeah. That's the way. So you also said 3 children. How old?
So Tommy is 9, JoJo is 7, and Jack is 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome, man.
It is.
Awesome. So, because again, to that opening statement that you made, right, was like that you want your kids to see that they have other options outside the box. So what do you mean by that?
So, I mean, I don't know about the way anybody else was raised, and I love my parents. They did the best they could, and they only knew what they knew. So until I was exposed to a different way, right? Because I spent all my time, specifically where I grew up in Mayfair or in the police department, people aren't really doing big things in there or different things, right? Everybody kind of falls in line, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? You have a stable paycheck, good health benefits, and all those other things. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's fantastic. But I feel kind of slighted because I was never exposed to that kind of an option. So I try to talk to my kids. I think more than anything, they see it rather than anything that's going to really come out of your mouth.
For sure.
I mean, my 4-year-old apparently has 15 properties that I don't know about. He carries around a set of keys with him for all his properties.
There you go. That's cool.
It's sinking in. At the very least, at least they'll be exposed to that. Okay, I don't have to do what everybody else is doing, or I don't have to kind of just fall in line and be an employee,
Yeah.
And even if they do choose to do that, that's fine too. Whatever makes them happy, but at the very least, they'll get a chance to see look, there's no ceiling here, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And you don't have to be run a major empire. You can still do this and that and have the kind of lifestyle that you want, which for all intents and purposes is the dream in and of itself, I think, right? You have, I think that was the hardest step, at least for me. It's going from W-2 to the unknown. And then once you get there, you realize, man, I wish I would have known about this earlier, dude. When I meet, you meet a 20-year-old that's wholesaling 10 or 15 houses a year, you're for you, bro.
Yep.
Yep.
It's dude, you have so much time on your hands, you don't even know. Yeah.
You could be literally just have the lifestyle you want pretty quickly too.
Yep. So take that back one step further real quick. So as a kid, how were you as a student?
So I think I was pretty square, dude. I was actually a decent student. I think it wasn't until I got out of high school and into college that I became a little my mind shifted a bit.
Okay.
Which
makes sense, man. College,
I know, right?
I want to go crazy.
I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. Nothing seemed appealing, and I just kind of floated for a couple years, and now when I look back, knowing I know now about how my personality is, and I like to think outside the box, right? you know, I mean, I don't mind taking like calculated risks, like things like that. Like it all kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like even like when I look back, like I think I definitely started to develop like an authority complex, kind of funny, like as a cop. Like the last couple years I was there, just because I was like just like unsettled or something, man. I'm like, this just doesn't make sense. Like, so I just want to thank all the horrible supervisors I had over the years. Just for like making me like frustrated to the point where I realized I wanted to do something else, I think, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I know, like, I mean, so when I see with my kids now, it's like my son is pretty square in a good way, you know? You know, my daughter and my youngest, they're like, they have like attention problems, right? And not problems, but just like, you know, just maybe they're not, you know, as locked in as maybe other kids their age or whatever. They get distracted easily, and they like to challenge, like with questions and stuff like that. And I encourage that now.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's like like when they're going to school, like they're gonna have that. No, you need to do things exactly this way. Like you don't think outside the box, right? It's not good to question everything. Like versus like, no, I'm gonna encourage that. That's cool. Like that's actually an amazing trait, and it needs to be nurtured, not shut down.
Yep.
You know.
Fully agree, man. It's like my oldest, she's 13, and man, she is maybe a little too much like me in a lot of ways, you know, like she, even when it comes to, you know, doing a math problem and showing the work, it's like she just totally outside the box. It's like she got the answer and she just doesn't want to do things the way that they want it to be done. And she just simply can't understand, if I got the outcome, why does all this other stuff have to be done the way that you want it done? And my dilemma, because I am totally an outside the box, like if this is the box, I'm freaking over here, man, you know? And I was not a good student, and I didn't even finish high school, you know? So it's like, I want to, for the sake of, you know, the rest of her educational career, it's like, well, you still have to be a good student. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, it's like, well, I didn't need to follow things the way that they were kind of laid out. And, you know, so I don't even feel right kind of forcing her to follow the framework. You know what I mean? So
no, I understand that.
It's a dilemma.
Yeah, because you don't want them to be like anarchist or anything.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't want her to turn out like a crazy person, you know, but it's like there are some rules that we have to follow in life.
Right.
But it's okay to not do everything the same way as is expected traditionally by everybody, in the sense of go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a degree, get a job, work 40 hours a week, work till you're 69 years old and retire. Like that's the fundamental blueprint for, at least as Americans, right? That's the American dream. And to your point exactly, that's not what has to be done.
It doesn't. And like I have conversations with my kids that I don't remember having with my parents, and that's okay. But like, I don't know, like my 4-year-old has this little vending machine that he bought as a toy, and like it has like 3 fake candy bars in there, and then you press the button and it comes down. And he was kind of fixated on that for like a couple days, but we were talking about it, and I said, now how much did it cost for you to buy that candy? And he's like, a penny. I'm like, great. Now, what are you going to sell it for? Because other people are putting their money in that machine to hit the button. What are you going to sell it for? He's like, $1. And I'm like, right. So how much did you make? You know, it's like having conversations like that, or like my oldest will ask me about different jobs sometimes. So I'll just have that convo with them. Like, do you want to be like an employee, or do you want to run your own company? Like, you have that option. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man.
So at the least they'll have at least those ideas in their head, like as they go through life, and the more that they learn, like to look at things a little bit differently, you know.
That's so cool, man. I love that. I love that. So what is in the next year for you?
I think I'm still trying to figure it out. Like I'm like I said, like I'm in no rush. What I've been doing is working just fine. There's no reason to veer too far off that course, I don't think, but I do have the itch to potentially like slowly start, you know, at the very least I could certainly bring on an administrative assistant right now and try to help out, because I am documenting my time and I'm seeing, yeah, I'm spending a lot of time that I don't necessarily have to, that I could, delegate this out and just take it step by step. You know what I mean? Like I'm learning marketing strategies. I'll never do outbound again unless it's just a small channel, because it's like death by 1,000 conversations. It's terrible. So I don't know. We'll kind of see how it goes. I do have the itch, but I'm trying to be a little bit more calculated, where that's not in my personality, believe it or not.
Fully understand.
Like I prefer to just pull the trigger and figure it out. But I feel like I did learn some lessons, like just even from the conversations, like just at the CG event. So just with finances and, I'm implementing profit first accounting into place just to get a clear idea. And just kind of take it step by step. Like I feel like now's a good time it's like maybe like a tactical pause.
Hell yeah.
Rather than like stopping. It's like, okay, I feel like I could get more organized right now, and then just kind of take it step by step. So to answer your question loosely, I would like to have like a certain more amount of money coming in every month. I think it's just a loose idea right now though.
Dude, yeah. I love that. I think that's a great framework of just kind of thinking about something all the way through. Like I said, I was the same way. Like I shouldn't say the same way. I was the opposite way, earlier on. It's like, yeah, I want to do more, but there wasn't even any reason or justification behind it. So thinking all the way through, because typically I like to reverse engineer everything, but there's been things like growing my business to X amount of deals per month or per year that didn't really have anything behind it. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's a good start. Like I want X amount in reserves for marketing first, for sure. I want X amount for the properties, and then I want X amount for my family. So there's got to be at least enough of a safety net. So I'm pretty close to being there right now. I'm good. Like I'm doing a refi or two. I'm going to have some more reserves put aside before if I do pull the trigger, we'll say.
Sweet. Yeah. What would you, somebody that's just doing their first deal right now and just kind of getting into the world of real estate, maybe they're doing creative deals, maybe they're just wholesaling, doing a flip, whatever. With the experience that you've had, what advice would you give to them?
I think you got to get in the right circle. And I think it takes a while to figure out what that right circle is too, because there's a lot of people in this business. Not everybody's a great fit. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage you to have as many conversations as you could, go to as many networking events, just to try to get an idea of what, if you're really going to do it right, maybe reverse engineer like the lifestyle that you want compared to what kind of bit. Because let's face it, I mean, you can do so many different things in this business.
Absolutely.
There's so many different niches to go down into. Like,
yep.
But at the very least, like, you can learn all you want, but you're never really going to learn until you actually start taking those action steps. 100%.
Yeah.
So like, I don't regret like pulling the trigger on that BRRRR, because if I never did that, like I didn't feel ready at all. Like I was like, oh my God, this could be a disaster, but I did it anyway. And then it's like, that's the best way to learn. I've had some expensive mistakes that I made. And at the end of the day, what was I thinking about earlier? Like so there's the one thing I love, I think the most about real estate is, as long as you buy right, like it's like everything moves in slow motion compared to like whatever, like you're going to throw money in the stock market, dude, you could lose it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. But like you have time, like things move in slow motion. Like you have time to correct.
It's a good way to look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
You have a little bit more time. So as far as investing is concerned, like I feel like real estate is a really good tool. Yep. So where you're, I mean, I don't know how many people just blow everything they have on their first deal. I don't know. Maybe it happens. I don't know. Yeah,
it's funny, man, because I've talked to so many people over the years and everything, and I've met some guys that, kind of bought a house back in 07, 08, and then the crash happened and they held on to it and they rented it out, but it's like, oh my God, I'm so upside down and everything. And then here we are. It's like, these are guys that weren't even really trying to be real estate investors, right? It's like, bought a personal residence, rented it out and bought another house, and then the crash happened, whatever, upside down. And then here we are all these years later. They're like, for a while, that was the biggest financial burden. They're like, I'm hundreds of thousands of dollars upside down.
Right.
And here we are. They're like, now I have a couple $100,000 in equity,
Yeah.
Like, so as long as you can hold on,
right,
probably, knock on wood, no matter what, like real estate over time is always going to go up.
Yep.
There could be, some dips and market shifts in the interim of getting to that time frame, but ultimately values go up.
Yeah, they do. It definitely it's a very forgiving asset class for sure.
Yep.
So
As you were saying something there, I thought of one other thing. The benefit of shooting from the hip and just taking action and everything is that, like, often the more you know, the more it makes you afraid to do something. Like, I really believe there's a superpower in being naive in something.
Yeah.
That sounds like freaking crazy to people, but it's like, no, being naive and not knowing everything is actually a superpower. Because if you knew all the shit that could go wrong, and like you had hundreds of conversations with guys that have, done a similar strategy to what you're doing, and you heard 7 stories of people getting sued before you did your first deal, it's like, whoa, maybe I should pump the brakes a little bit, you know?
No, that's definitely, I feel like that's definitely one of my superpowers too. Like, even when I made my mind up to do this, I'm like, I wrote a dollar amount on my whiteboard in my kitchen. And I told my wife, I said, when I hit that number, am I good to do this full time? She said, yeah. And I said, okay, I'm gonna do that in a year. And I beat that time frame. Now, when nobody could tell me anything otherwise, I'll tell you that much, because I was fixated on it, like obsessed. So, like, I would have conversations with people at the police department. They'd be like, you're nuts. Why would you leave at 15 years? Just put another 10 in. Like, you get a solid pension. I'm like, no, there's nothing you can tell me. Like, this is happening. Like, it might as well have already happened. So I think having that kind of mindset is extremely beneficial too. Because then you're hyper-focused. You're like, dude, I don't care. Like, if there's problems, cool. I'll figure them out as I go along. I'm getting to this point in time period. So...
Dude, that mindset. Well, where do you think you got that from?
I have no idea, bro. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like, when I think,
did you always have it?
I don't know if I always did. I've thought about it. I can't really pinpoint it. What I will say is that, like, so as a cop, like, you have to learn to pivot consistently. Nothing is ever going to go as planned. And there's always going to be surprises, right? So the best cops are the ones that are able to make those split-second decisions based upon whatever they're being presented with at the time for the best outcome. And I think maybe like that type of mentality and realizing like, I don't have to know everything. I only need to know enough, whatever that means, to you, and to get started, and I'll figure it out. So I think what I find is the people who overthink, and again, like you said, like they'll focus on the negative and they prevent themselves. I mean, I know guys that I've talked about doing deals with or getting involved in real estate going back 3 years ago, and they still haven't put a deal.
Right.
So It's like you're going to limit yourself. You don't even know you're your own worst enemy because you'll never do it.
Yep.
Versus somebody like me or you, where they're like, I was going to do it.
I'm in. Yeah. Just going to figure it out along the way, man. I love that. Final question for you here. I'm pretty sure I know how it's going to go, but if you could go back 10, 15 years into the past, knowing what you know now, would you have done anything differently? Would you have told yourself to do things differently?
I don't know the answer to that, man. I mean, I didn't know any better. I mean, I am who I am. Like, I think everything that happened led me to this point. So even with, the ups and the downs in my career, like, I mean, I have a beautiful family. Like, life is good, bro. So whatever decisions happened or were made to get me here. And I'm totally content with that. And I don't regret any of it, Now, I really do wish I was exposed to this earlier. Though.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yep.
Like, I feel
and
like
I figured that
probably
wholeheartedly was going to be your answer, because most people say, like, in a perfect hypothetical, I wish I could go back 15 years and just buy everything 15 years ago because I know the values are higher.
Yeah.
But exactly how you explain that, like, I wouldn't be the person that I am today had I not experienced life the way that I did.
Right.
That, to me, that feels like you are happy with the person that you are today, and that is fucking beautiful.
Isn't it?
That is so cool.
Yeah, I see. I mean, I see it. You see guys, again, they're chasing. Like, you have to just figure it out. Just take a grand perspective. Like, what are you chasing?
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe, like you said, like everybody's different, but like when you hit 300 deals a year, like, are you going to be happy?
That's right.
Like, I'm happy now, bro.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, so I don't know. I guess it's an inside job too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
it really is, man.
Focusing on
like
external things.
That's why there's so many pieces, right? It's not just the skills. It's not just the mindset. It's also the spiritual and the understanding of why I am the way that I am and what is going to actually fulfill me and everything.
Yeah.
And if you can just kind of slow down, which I think is hard for a lot of entrepreneurs because, again, competitive, we want to grow, we want to do more. Yeah. But when you can just slow down for a minute and be like, where I'm at today is pretty cool.
Right.
That's dope. That's dope. You're already winning, brother. I love that. Where can people find you if they want to reach out?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram. That's probably, social media is probably the best way to get in touch with me. So
sweet. Yeah. I love it, man. Yeah. I love it. Tom, thank you so much for coming in. This has been a wealth of information. And again, like I said earlier, I'm not bullshitting when I say that some of the creative stuff goes over my head and I learn things kind of slow. So I really wanted to dig deep into understanding how the structure works and everything. And if I was able to understand it by the way you were explaining it, I hope everybody listening was able to get some golden nuggets out of it. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Thank you, brother.